Welcome to the showcase. This is where I interview entertainers because I believe people, they want to know how they achieve their success. But I also have some magic in store and some great talented people who is very informative with sound and things like that. Now, I just want to say before I introduce this next guest, what we discuss in this showcase is very impartial and you can take on board what you like. It's not geared to you. It's just general advice. So please be aware of that. I'd like to introduce Ian, and he's called the Shaddow Maslin. And Ian, do you want to tell us what you do and that?
Certainly. As he's just said, my name's Ian. I run a small company called Shaddow Audio Visual. What we do, we provide sound and lighting for the events industry and entertainers. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Where are you based?
I'm in the Midlands, in the West Midlands.
And how do people contact you should they want to use your services, Ian?
My social media, they can find me on social media. A lot of my work is word of mouth. So it kind of gets passed on from act to act that I've worked with previously. But social media does play quite a big role.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure that's on here. Secondly, have you worked with any big people that you can sort of like?
No, as I say, I'm more of the smaller scale.
Yeah.
No one that you'd say was a famous person and a named act, if you like.
Okay, that's immaterial because your professionalism and your expertise is going to be crucial in this interview, because I believe that there are lots of acts out there that don't understand about PAs, even lighting, don't understand about what PAs do and how they work and how they should be set up. And as I say, Ian's kindly come on here to offer that advice, so please, take it as impartial advice. So Ian, in your opinion, are sound systems used by artists these days advanced and adequate?
I would say definitely yes. There's been leaps and bounds in PA systems, speakers, mixing desks, microphones. Everything has come on leaps and bounds in the last 5 years, let alone the last 10 years. There's certainly some very, very good equipment that's more than up to the job these days.
And the good thing is, Ian, is that most of it's getting lighter.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure you remember the days. I mean, I'm 65. I've been on the road many years when you used to carry big PVBS bass bins. And, you struggled to lift them. And if you had an upstairs gig, you just had it. Nowadays, I mean, I'm a big lover of QSC, but we'll talk about that in a moment. I had an amazing 2x12 system with the bass bins, and it just blew me away how light it.
That would be the K series, the K sub.
That's it, the K12s, yeah, K12-2s, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Italian, I believe, Ian, is that right?
They were. I think they had American drivers.
Okay.
I think the amp modules were kind of partly developed in Italy, but I think they were American made.
Very light, for any budding girl singers as well, young girls that want to carry something. They're awesome. The casing is magic, and they're very easy to use.
I actually used the K series for a lot of years. The K sub, the 212, the K10, the K8. I also had the KW series, the 153, the 18-inch subs. I had a lot of the QSC stuff. Yeah,
I can imagine. But however, a good friend of mine who's been a DJ for many years is got on his head tattooed RCF only.
Yeah, that's not a good tattoo, is it? That?
But he swears that the RCFs range now are far superior to anything, and he did let me listen to some 10s that was quite, I was pretty shocked. There was quite okay. What's your opinion of RCF, Ian?
I'll probably get shot.
No, you won't, because we did say it's impartial advice.
But for me, the RCF series is fine.
Yeah.
In the right environment.
Oh.
I think the RCF series get very, very good when they start going to a wooden box and not a plastic. That's just my opinion. So there's a lot of people that use the 712.
Yes.
And there's a lot now that are using the new 900 series.
Yes.
Yet again, there's nothing wrong with them. I've just heard a lot that have a horrible mid-range. And no doubt if you team those with a bass bin, it'll be a much fuller sound. I'm just not a fan of RCF until, as I say, we get to the wooden boxes. The TT range is very good, obviously, but we're going up in price as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But on a lighter note, Ian, would you say the Art series is better for a singer or a DJ?
That's a tough one. There's a hell of a lot of singers that use them.
Yeah.
And they always have a good gig. There's a lot of DJs that use them as well, and they do well. So I would say it's probably as good for either.
Okay. Now, question I want to put to you is, which PA system is the easiest to use and the most comprehensive from your point of view?
Oh.
Now, let's first of all, Ian, just take about a single act, one guy or young girl, and then we'll move on to the duo and then the band.
Yeah, of course. Well, the simplest system to set up is what they call an all-in-one system now. There's a lot of these tower systems incorporate a bass unit and the top box, and it quite literally is a plug and play. It's one cable from the mixing desk into the speaker, and the speaker takes care of everything else. I mean, some of these systems even have the mixer built in that you can run off an iPad, or so you don't even need a separate mixer.
Wow. And I suppose the brands have different ones. Which brand would you say for those all-in-one systems?
I think one of the most popular was the Bose system, the Bose L1 system. I think now the RCF Evox system is very popular, and the EV Evolve system. I think that's also very good. I've heard most of them. I owned some Bose L1 for quite a while. And although it sounded fine, it's very venue dependent. I mean, they're very tall, so if you have a low ceiling, you're going to struggle. And they're also really designed as a personal monitor, but it does a very good job of dispersion and filling an area. But I think probably one of the best ones I've heard is the RCF Evox 12.
Wow.
And the EV Evolve 50. I think the EV Evolve 50 has probably just got the edge for me. But again, that's only my opinion.
And that's something a solo act could set up in no time at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose a lot of people look at the cost as well. Yeah. Are they all much of a muchness, or do the price by brand name, or what?
To be honest with you, I haven't really looked at the prices lately of tower systems. As I say, I don't personally use them. So I would say they're probably all quite similar, the Bose and the Evox 12 probably. I think the EVs maybe a little bit less. We're all pretty much round about the same, I think.
I'm always a big believer that I've always been told by people that the bigger the speaker, the more it pushes the air. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's no substitute for inches, as they say. But it's certainly applicable with bass bins. Certainly, yes.
Now, in your opinion, what PA brands do you think are the best for the money? We've only spoke about solo acts at the moment, so let's take a duo or a band. What would you say?
It's very venue dependent. I mean, yet again, with a huge, big space, you are going to need bass bins, just so you have a full, even sound. And it also takes a lot of pressure off your top speakers, because you're not asking those to produce the bass frequencies. But for the duo, a pair of good top boxes on stands, 15-inch, 12-inch, or even, as I say, some of the tower systems can do very, very well, even for duos. The Evox 12 will certainly be up to the job.
Can you use one bass bin?
Yes, certainly. I mean, you could go left and right from your mixing desk into the bass bin first, and then take a high-passed output into each one of the top boxes per side, and let the speakers do all the processing for you, which the majority do now anyway.
Yeah. Is it important where you place your speakers? So if you have one bass bin, is it correct to put it in the middle of the stage at the back, or does it matter?
You'll get the most even spread if it's in the middle, definitely. But But either side will work. I mean, it's not that it won't work. Either side will work.
So what about a band? Would you say a band can get away with a column system or tower
Uh,
system?
the bigger collar systems, the Evox, the RCF, the Evox 12, certainly. But yet again, very venue dependent, and audience size is going to play a big role.
Mm.
If it's a large venue with a big noisy audience, you've got to get over that noise. So, something with the ability to project over a crowd noise is hugely important. The Evox
Mm.
12 would do it. As I say, it has a bin. I would recommend two, not just one. One per side, two bass bins, two top units.
Because if you've got a band, let's say you've got 4 or 5 of you, and there's 5 mics, and then you're putting the guitars through it, and then maybe sometimes even kick drum is usually
Yeah,
put
yeah,
through it.
absolutely.
It's taking a lot of power. It's asking for a lot from the PA, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Bass frequencies will draw more power. Hence the reason try and always use subs
Yeah.
because it'll take a lot of the weight off the top boxes. If you're asking the top boxes to produce those bass frequencies as well, that's eating up a lot of power. So the more bass you're putting through those in a band situation, the less headroom you've got for vocals and higher frequency instruments.
See, and it's impossible to judge what PA system you should buy nowadays, because if you're a singer or a duo and you're traveling around the clubs, there's some big clubs, there's some small clubs, and there's some cupboards, so you can't really base the PA system on the venue, can you? It's quite challenging.
It's a difficult one. It
Yeah.
is a difficult one. You could say for various levels of performers. For someone just starting out, they're not going to want to spend £4,000 or £5,000 on a PA system. For those people, either one of the tower systems for your smaller venues, or two top boxes with some stands. As you get better and you progress, then you upgrade as you go. I mean, we all have to do that.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't start with £20,000 worth of equipment, do they? We have to start small, and then over the years, we kind of find out what works for us.
Mm.
There is no one PA fits all.
No, there isn't.
There's some very good systems that are multi-purpose, but even those won't suit certain venues.
Yeah. And again, some PA systems are quite challenging to get nowadays. They don't seem to be producing them in mass.
Yeah.
I looked for some QSC systems last year, and I couldn't find any anyway. No shop had them.
Really?
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to power. What power do people need, Ian?
Power. This is the one that everyone seems to get wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Judging from what I see on social media, anyway.
Right.
I mean, they'll sit there and say, "Oh, my speaker's rated at 1,000 watts or 2,000 watts." 9 times out of 10, that is a peak power. That is what that speaker will be able to handle for a very brief moment. That is its absolute peak. The speaker itself is probably a 400-watt driver.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can't run them at that constant power. Will you just damage them?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll blow the speaker. You'll blow the speaker code.
Should you have your volume on your speakers on full or halfway or what, and then control it by a mixer?
Yet again, that's very speaker dependent, very manufacturer dependent. I know a lot of the RCF speakers need to be up at full.
Yeah.
The QSCs, as you use yourself, they have a 0 dB marking. And ideally, that's where you want to run that, at that 0 dB. It's not an actual output, it's an input level on the QSC. So you're inputting at 0 dB, which is optimum.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't know these kind of things, Ian. So if they're told, you need a 1,000-watt PA system, it's not 1,000-watt they're getting, is it?
A lot of the time, no.
Really?
My advice to anyone looking for a speaker, a PA system, is look at its SPL, which
What
is
does that mean?
Sound pressure level.
Okay.
It's measured in decibels, and obviously everyone knows decibels is loudness. Now, the higher you can get that number, the louder that speaker is going to be, regardless of its watts power. So you could, for argument's sake, you could have a 500 watt speaker that will deliver 132 decibels SPL level. And on the other side of the coin, you could have what's claimed to be a 1,000 watt speaker only deliver 128. So there is a huge difference. So always look for the SPL level, not the watts power.
What should artists understand when they set up a PA system?
Yeah, again, you could get massively in depth into that. I'll try and keep it simple. Understand that PA system is your method, if you like, or your way of connecting to your audience, and that is the only thing it's for. To amplify your voice to the crowd. It doesn't have to be massively loud in a lot of occasions, just enough so they can all, hear what you're saying comfortably.
Yeah.
And there's, you have some left in reserve. A lot of people I see, they're so loud that people are struggling to actually comprehend what they're talking about. And it doesn't need to be at that volume. Yeah, again, a good quality PA system with a good SPL, you'll have a lot of room left. So if someone says, "Oh, can you turn it up?" then you can. If you're already running at full, there's nowhere to go.
So that's good advice. What about your setup of your speakers? Should you put them behind you, in front of you? What's the best?
Always in front if possible. Eliminates a lot of problems with feedback. Obviously, depending on the venue, you could be stuck in a corner. Try and put them at least level with you if you can. I know a lot of acts do put them behind, and it acts as their monitoring as well. You don't get, in my opinion, you can't get maximum gain on a microphone, on an input source, with them standing behind you. You're basically feeding so much into that microphone that putting the speakers behind, it's going to come back into that microphone, which is where feedback comes from.
The feedback comes from the microphone, not the placing of the speakers. Or is it a bit of both?
Well, it's the source on stage picking up the speaker, which is causing a loop, which causes the feedback.
Yeah, okay. So how do you prevent feedback and that awful sharpness, that piercing sound?
Well, obviously, speaker placement. I'd always try and look at speaker placement first. Get the PA in front of you. And get a good gain level. I mean, most people will understand what I'm saying when I say gain.
Yes.
Basically, an input level. All speakers have an input gain knob, call it trim or gain, and a PFL button, which is the signal level. You'll have meters on somewhere, and use that PFL button. Turn up your input level until you've got a good, healthy signal. Most mixing desks are marked at 0 dB, which is great if we can run at 0 dB. A lot of the time we can't. We need more. In my opinion, you can comfortably go up to +6. That provides you with a good input level. So that, a lot of times you don't have to have everything up at full.
No. So looking at the mixer, Ian, let's say you've got a mixer and then you've got the flashing lights that go up, the LED indicators. Should it be clipping red or should it be in red all the time?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Avoid the red. Avoid the red. Occasional clipping is okay, but ideally you really want to avoid hitting that red light.
So to avoid that, you'd bring the gains down and put the sliders up.
Bring the input level down on the gains, on the knob. Bring that down. You don't want to be into the red. You want a good, healthy signal, probably up into amber. Some are green, some are amber. But you want to be avoiding the red, definitely.
Okay. So one of the biggest choices, you said in these towers, they've got their own mixers in, but if you was to be a small act, what kind of mixing desk brand would you choose?
Oh, brands. There's so many brands.
Is there?
There's thousands. There's thousands. But again, it all comes down to budget with a lot of people. Not everyone can afford the all singing, all dancing, top of the range, Allen and Heath and Soundcraft.
Z series.
Yeah, there's so many. A good starting point for a lot of people seems to be the Mackie stuff or the Yamaha.
Really?
A lot of people. The Yamaha are good. I do like the Yamaha disc. The Yamaha, they've got lovely effects. If you want to go up in price, then the industry standard, if you like, seems to be the Dynacord.
They're expensive, aren't they, Ian?
Well, it's one of those things that maybe you aspire to. You know, you start off with something at the cheaper end, and you upgrade, you build as you go. But the Dynacord is certainly probably the best analog disc for.
What's the smallest Dynacord you can get?
I believe it's the 600.
Right.
I don't use them myself.
No.
I think it's 12 channels.
So have they all got built-in power amps then?
And not all of them, no. Some are passive.
Oh, okay.
Some are powered and some are passive. Yeah, you can get either.
Just to tell the audience, active is where you've got power and passive is no power. Yeah. So that's because most speakers now come active, don't they?
Well, you can get every brand that you can buy active. You can buy the passive version.
But you don't want to be carrying a power mixer, do you? Well,
it's heavier.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, a passive speaker is much lighter than an active speaker, so it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
I do like passive systems. For ease of use, powered system is better, speaker-wise, but just for ease of use and setup. You know, there's a lot to be said for a good passive system as well.
Yeah. And I suppose the other option is if you have a separate power amp and a speaker, you're only going to blow one, not both.
Well, yeah.
So you just have to replace the amp. If that blows, you still got your speakers. You know, if one of your speakers go.
It's probably more expensive to fix a Dynacord than it is to fix a speaker.
Yeah, you're right there. Let's talk about microphone. Now, I've always said my personal belief, I mean, I'm using a show for my studio, but I'm a Sennheiser lover. What would you put as a good standard all-round mic? A lot of people say 758, but as a sound professional, what would you say is a good mic that is good all-round?
The SM58 has a place in everyone's box. It's been industry standard for a lot of years. Wow. I mean, there's other models, obviously, but everyone still seems to like an SM58. I'm not a fan, actually. I prefer Sennheiser.
Yeah, me too.
I've always been a Sennheiser fan. Although there's some very, very, very good Shure microphones, you know. I've just always leant towards a Sennheiser.
Yeah.
I just find they sound a little bit better. And I think they're a bit more forgiving, maybe.
I think so, and they're a bit more directional rather than picking up so much of the...
I mean, that comes down to the capsule that's fitted to the microphone. You know, you can have quite open, you can have narrow, and you can have even narrower capsules. You know, narrow capsules, obviously great in front of bands, maybe. You know, where you don't want all those outside sources coming down the microphone. An open capsule will pick up better.
Why do you find singers eat the microphone like this when they're singing?
Maybe because that's how they were shown, or maybe that's what they've seen on TV.
I always think a good inch or 2 inch away from the microphone is perfect.
Yeah. I mean, there's an old adage: if you hold the microphone and put your thumb on your chin, you're roughly the same. You're roughly where you need to be.
That's a good tip, isn't it? Yeah. And as opposed to radio mics, I've had my problems with radio mics. I prefer a lined mic when I'm doing live. What are the disadvantages of having a radio mic nowadays? Because you've got so many problems with frequencies and things. You have to set it at a certain frequency. I'm not sure.
Well, it's all down to frequencies. Radio, wireless systems are all down to frequencies. Frequency bands these days, they're sold off to TV stations and all sorts of things. So those bands are getting less and less. So you've got less and less choice, obviously. There are still bands out there, you know, but a lot of manufacturers now are going to digital. You know, the 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz spectrums, which, I mean, I use a lot of Line 6 microphones. I mean, they're very old tech now, but they run on 2.4 gigahertz, which can get very clogged and very busy, obviously with mobile phones, etc. But I've been using those six systems for the last 5-6 years, and I've never had any major problems with them. So I think digital is going to be the future.
Right.
Because, as I say, the frequency bands are getting less and less each year.
Are the days gone where you can pick up the taxis and buses and things like that Is that
No,
all finished?
it still happens. It still happens. Usually with, you I don't want to appear rude, but you're working club venues that have got
Oh,
in-house microphones for
oh,
bingo and, that kind of thing. It can be quite funny when somebody says, it comes over the speakers that your taxi's outside.
yeah. I think we've all experienced it. Is that a taxi for? I got to pick up for Mr. Martin.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, I'm pleased you said about Sennheisers because I think they're a good mic. So the alternative to a SM58, have they never replaced that, or is it? Or they kept the standard?
Well, there's an SM58, there's an SM58 Beta.
Okay,
I mean, AKG do some very good ones. The
really?
D5, I use quite a few of those. Sennheiser do their own kind of version, which is, I think it's an 835. Um,
Mm,
what's the other one? SE Electronics. They're a new company.
wow,
They do what they call a V7 now.
wow,
It's less than £100 to buy, and it's a great microphone.
fantastic.
Great microphone.
Yeah. And if you were doing karaoke, would you always use line mics or would you have radio?
I'd use the cheapest mic possible.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the only answer I've got really for that one. I mean,
you're right.
nobody's going to care that it's your microphone. They're going to abuse it. They're going to throw it. They're going to drop it.
Yeah.
It could end up in someone's beer. It's really not worth spending any money on a karaoke, in my opinion. I know some karaokes that carry Sennheiser microphones. And if they're happy to do that, then that's good for them.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't do it.
A £30 Behringer's enough, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's been a great interview. I'm sure you shed light on some interesting stuff, Ian. You're a very intelligent man when it comes to sound, and
Thank you very much.
I don't think a lot of people really fully understand PAs when they go buy one. They listen to the mate, and the mate says, "Oh, you need this," but they don't really still understand what it's about.
It's that social media side.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were saying with RCF, there's nothing wrong with RCF before anybody thinks I'm a hater.
Yeah. No, they're not.
No.
Yeah.
It's just that so many people have listened to someone say why the RCF 712, etc., that now everybody recommends the RCF 7. They don't realise that there's other things.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally use FPT.
Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about those, but they're very heavy, aren't they?
No, not at all.
Oh, really?
I mean, there's a couple of acts I know use the FPT Pro Max, the 114. It's actually a 14-inch driver, so it's the best of both worlds. It's you've got vocal clarity of a 12, bass level of a 15, but the cabinet is still only the size of a 12. It's plastic, and I think they're about 14.5 kilos. They're some of the lightest speakers I've ever picked up.
Oh,
and yet their SPL rating is like, I think it's 133 or something.
Really?
900 watts per cabinet. Fabulous.
So there you go, FBT as well. I'll tell you what I would like to do, Ian, is there are so many DMX lighting nowadays, and I'd like to do another one with you when you have some time. I know you're a busy man. I'd love to talk about lighting because nowadays there's DMX lighting that are wireless and things like that, and I'd like to talk to you all about why and these power bars and all things like that. So maybe we can arrange a part 2.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Ian the Shaddow
I have a guy that does a lot of lighting for me.
Right.
So I could maybe get him on board as well, and we can do it together. I mean,
that would be good. Yeah.
Because
I know a lot of artists now prefer their own lighting because they're so easy to set up.
Absolutely. Well, you can time code it now to do what you ask it to do in time with your backing track.
Can you? Is that easy?
Absolutely. Depending on the program that you use, yes, it can be.
There you go. That's for another series, Ian. Okay. So I'd like to say to the viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this, and again, I'll stress that all this advice is impartial because even though Ian is a professional sound man, you still have you have the choice to choose what you want to choose. So please don't text me with I disagree with what he says or I disagree with what you says. We don't really want to know. This is purely for the people out there that do want the impartial advice, can make their own decisions. So I'd like to thank Ian for his time coming on here, because not many people want to do it for that reason, that they don't want to get,
Oh,
you know.
we all get it. We all get it. Especially, as I say, it's online trolls. They all know best.
Yeah.
I mean, I have lots of private messages on Facebook asking for advice. They don't put it publicly because whatever you reply to publicly,
Yeah, somebody's gonna.
someone will pick a hole in
Yeah,
or look for an argument. It's that simple. I get a lot of private messages.
good.
I'd like to think I kind of help a lot of people privately,
Yeah,
which I find a better way to do it.
yeah.
You know, you don't involve everyone else. It's one person asking for some advice. What they don't need is 300 comments saying buy an RCF, buy an
Bullshit.
FPT, buy an EV. You know, it's confusing. It's confusing.
So, are you more into corporate events and private events rather than?
Um, I'm not. I do some corporate, but I'm not really a fan of corporate.
Right.
I find it very, what's the word, without sounding rude, quite boring.
Mm,
Um, Depending on the event, obviously. I mean, some events
right.
can be great. I'm more on a live music
Okay.
environment.
So, if a
Theatre,
band don't have a PA and they just like think, right, we're going to go do this gig, that I hear you
yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
And some venues, I work in some venues that have their own equipment, and I just operate their equipment,
Wow.
and they
Okay.
just need to do that, you know.
That's
So yeah,
fantastic.
I'm definitely more a live music
Excellent.
engineer.
So, well, if you're a musician and you're looking for expert sound man, Ian German, I'll put all the contact details on here. And thank you very much for your time today, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And on behalf of the showcase, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll arrange another one with Ian and his lighting partner, and that will be very exciting. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and thank you to Ian.
Thank you very much.
Right.